Fahed Bizzari, a dynamic AI consultant, keynote speaker, and a serial entrepreneur. Fahed has positioned himself as a leading figure in helping organizations leverage AI.
My journey started with the good fortune of being my father's son. The two things I got starting with him was the love for entrepreneurship and the love for advising others. I eventually studied marketing because marketeers around the world are engineering society, and society has no idea. When I started the business, my vision was how to have a business that would free me.
How did you come to know about GPT?
Through my developer. The first time I saw it, I just couldn't make any sense out of it. At the same time that ChatGPT was released, my father and I were both reading this book written by an economist who was on Barack Obama's team, who predicted the 2008 recession.
Okay.
So this book describes the 10 mega threats looming over humanity for the years ahead. If any one of them is to happen, it's going to be devastating for humanity. And one of the chapters is on AI. One of the reasons why people are apathetic towards AI, because they have not experienced the pivotal breakthrough moment. And I experienced it then, and I got my father to experience it. And then he said to me, Fahed, you must teach people.
What was that pivotal breakthrough?
I'm like, Dad, this is a secret weapon. I don't want to teach anyone.
On today's episode of the Forward Thinking People podcast, we are excited to welcome Fahed Bizzari, a dynamic AI consultant, keynote speaker, and a serial entrepreneur. With over 2 decades of business experience and a detailed understanding of AI, Fahed has positioned himself as a leading figure in helping organizations leverage AI as an impact multiplier to drive innovation, efficiency, and growth. Fahed now leads Bellamy Alden AI Consulting, where he guides companies towards achieving AI maturity. He has also dedicated his career to bridging the gap between AI technology and practical real-world applications, empowering businesses to harness AI's potential. Recognized as one of the top users of ChatGPT in 2023, Fahed brings hands-on experience, having spent thousands of hours working with AI models. Let's explore more about AI, its uses in business with Fahed today, and also learn about his journey to becoming the AI expert. Fahed, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for
Pleasure. I always wanted to do this, to have a one-on-one with you, to know how did you get into AI. But let's go back.
Okay.
Right where you started, from your education to your upbringing to your different various businesses that you started and discontinued, or did you dissolve? Share with us the journey.
Okay, how many days do we have for this?
Let's condense it.
Let's condense it, all right. I would say that, first of all, my journey started with the good fortune of being my father's son. So my father was a serial entrepreneur. He was an academic, but also a serial entrepreneur. He was involved in all sorts of things. Over the years, I saw him involved in so many things. He did a lot of kind of like middleman work between Britain and the UAE, believe it or not.
Wow.
Many people don't know this, but my grandfather was here in the UAE even before the Emirates was established. Oh. And he actually had an Ajmani passport. My father, his brothers, they all had Ajmani passports.
And your passport is?
British.
Okay.
My father, the way it used to work was that the people who had come from, so I'm Palestinian, my parents are Palestinian. The people who had come from Palestine and were serving the country,
okay,
if they were doing in a specific criteria, they would qualify to get a passport. Okay. And it was done every 6 months. So you get 6 months, expires, 6 months, expires.
So the passport expires?
The passport expires very quickly. But after the 3rd time, it becomes permanent. And he passed away before the 3rd one. Before he did the
but
third one.
You couldn't give your family members.
No. So that was that. Anyhow, so my father.
Would you like the UAE passport? It's just very good to have one.
It is very good to have. I mean, I'm kind of losing hope in the UK. It used to be called the United Kingdom of Great Britain. Mm-hmm. Doesn't feel very great these days. Like I was just spent 2 weeks in the UK. I'm so happy to be back in Dubai. Yeah. I walked back into my apartment last night and I'm like, home.
Dubai does that to you. You go wherever, when you come back, you just feel home.
Absolutely.
Makes you home. Feel home.
So with my father, there were 2 things. Number one was watching him, hearing him when he was in the UK, going with him to his office, in fact, all suited up and as a young 10-year-old and just feeling like...
He was into dressing up to going to office at the time?
He was. It
makes a lot. You see your parents and you learn, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the other thing which was quite significant also was the people that would come to see my father seeking advice. Like I never thought about that until much later. But every day, whenever he was in the UK, people would be coming to visit him every day seeking advice from him. So the two things I got in my journey starting with him was, first of all, the love for entrepreneurship. And then second of all, the love for advising others. And so that's really where it began. This was in London. I had the good fortune of having an excellent education, went to some of the top schools in the UK.
You studied marketing.
So I eventually studied marketing.
Yeah.
So before marketing, I tried business administration thinking that, oh yeah, I mean, you want to get into business, so you're going to do business. And that was the course that was available. Business, it was just boring as hell. The teaching was boring as hell. The university was boring as hell. So I ended up missing all the classes and eventually got kicked out of that university.
No.
I got kicked out of that university because I just couldn't. It was just torture.
The children just don't come.
I just didn't. That's what they said.
You
They
didn't
said,
attend the classes.
I didn't attend
why.
any of the classes, and people say that it's very difficult to fail the first year in a UK university, and I pulled it off.
Clearly.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you are into a serial entrepreneurship, but then you didn't want to study the business because you saw it practically seeing your father. You learned from your father running it.
It could be that, but these days, because now I'm involved in academic research for students with regards to AI, so I'm learning a lot more about different like ways in which kids study and so on. I think that actually at that time, the way in which things were being taught were not the ways that I was willing to learn. And, you know, very often you hear about kids, oh, he's got lots of potential, but he's not using it. Quite often it's because the teaching is bad. Or let's not say the word bad. The teaching is different.
Yeah.
So the teaching is working well with the really academic kids, but the kids who prefer to be practical and do things practically, it doesn't work well.
They need a different type of method.
Exactly. And so that was the starting point. So marketing, when I discovered marketing, oh my God, that was like my whole world changed. I was 19 years old, introduced to marketing, and I finally understood what made me me. Because marketeers around the world are engineering society, and society has no idea. I remember many years ago, I was involved in some consulting work for a play area. And the play area used to charge like, let's say 100 dirhams per visit.
Yeah.
And when I was brought in as the consultant, we looked at this play area and we said, look, most people come in, but they don't make it past the third visit. And so we said, okay, why don't we sell memberships for 1,000 dirhams?
A month.
1,000 dirhams per year, knowing that most people, this is like 15 years ago, right? Knowing that most people are not going to make it past the third visit. So if we set up for 1,000 dirhams, it's like we sold 10 visits in advance.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. That's very smart.
Wait to hear what happens next.
From 300 to 1,000.
How do we get people interested in membership? We put the pricing on the board. We said 100 dirhams per hour, members free, but we didn't put the pricing of the membership on the board. So the natural question that any person would ask is,
how much is the
membership? How much is the membership? And the answer to that, which the receptionists were trained in, was, 1 second, let me go and get the membership specialist. And then the membership specialist would come out from the back and then take them for an entire view of this play area, show them all the different things, ask them about how old their kids are, and try to highlight what would be important and useful to them. And on the back of that, sell the membership. This person thinks that they are using their own acumen, their own wisdom to make... But it was actually decided by marketeers behind the show.
Yeah.
So when I discovered marketing, I finally understood why I loved luxury goods, why I loved flying first class, why I love this, why I love that. Like all of these things have all been engineered by marketeers. And I was like a fish in water.
It's amazing how, even though we know it, we still fall prey to it.
That's another story. That's another story. But going back to the year 2000, for me, like I understood everything, and it really was transformational for me.
That's what got into marketing.
Marketing. And we did so many interesting things. I mean, in those days, we predicted Twitter, we predicted blogging, we predicted like all of the things, like social media as a whole. Our teachers at the time were helping us understand that this is the future and where it was going. Because the university where I studied was connected with the Chartered Institute of Marketers. Okay. So we had really, really high quality marketing education at that university. We did all sorts of things, like how to place, like you want to put a cinema, how do you decide where to place that cinema? taking into account like the demography and the population and really interesting stuff. Really, really interesting stuff.
And then how did you start your first business after the university degree?
All right. So my first business started with, I don't want to use the word laziness, but it started with the idea that like the anti 9 to 5.
You were the Tim Ferriss fan.
I was a Tim Ferriss fan before Tim Ferriss became Tim Ferriss.
But you spoke about the 4-hour work week.
I was pursuing the 4-hour work week before the 4-hour work week was a thing.
Really?
Yes.
You had not read the book.
This was 2022. Well, let's go back to when I was 16 or 15 or 13 years old. My father would always be like, yes, you have to do well in your studies and da-da. I'd be like, why? He's like, because if you do well in your GCSEs, then you'll be ready for your A-levels. And if you do well in your A-levels, you will be able to go to a good university. And when you do a good university, they'll accept you to do a master's. And then he's got a PhD and a PhD. And I'm like, as a young guy, looking at this journey of hell that he's laying out in front of me, I'm like, but why? He's like, so that you can earn a good living. Like, you can be wealthy. I'm like, yeah, but why don't I just become a gangster? Because gangsters, like, everything you're talking about, they just get it, like, apparently, much easier and much quicker. So that was my childhood. Like, as a young lad, I wanted to be the general manager of a luxury 5-star resort. That was my childhood
dream,
right? You want to be a fireman, you want to be a policeman. I want to be the general manager of a 5-star resort like Hawaii or
in Maldives or some nice sea location, beach location.
Exactly. Then that evolved into just become a gangster. Then around 18, 19 years old, of course, you know, I started to become more of a mature young man. And when I started the business, my vision was how to have a business that would free me. This is before any of the discussions that you hear online these days. Remember, this is 2002. Before all the discussions of systematization and freedom and
so what did you decide to
freedom.
Open the business on?
Actually, what happened? So I was praying for that business. I was literally asking God every day for about 1.5 years. Starting from the last semester of my university, oh God, give me a business give me a source of provision that frees me up. I was literally asking for that for about 1.5 years. And then one weekend, I felt something big is really about to happen in my life. And the only things I could think about was like, my parents are going to die. Like, my dad's going to die. It was really an overwhelming feeling. Like, my dad's going to die. And I was like, no, my dad and my mom are going to die.
No.
And then I'm like, no, my dad, my mom, my brother, my son. Like, it was a really weird feeling I've never felt in my life. After that weekend, I bumped into a friend. And he said to me, hey, Fahed, I've got some friends. They've set up a company. They're looking for somebody who can help with marketing. And I had graduated with a first class in marketing. So I'm thinking about you, and they also want me to be involved, so we'll be 4 partners. So I got involved with these guys, and now all of my entrepreneurial upbringing started to shine. I got really excited doing all of the work, speaking to my dad, getting advice from him, etc. Whereas everybody else, the other 3 were doing nothing.
What was the business?
The business, go back to 2002, it was the start of the SMS boom.
SMS marketing.
SMS marketing.
Okay.
So this was the very, very starting point when you used to get all sorts of rubbish SMS. Junk SMS. Even before,
like,
you still get them, but not like in those days.
Yeah.
In those days, it was...
Now you get WhatsApp junk.
Now you get WhatsApp. Now you get all sorts of junk. But in those days, it was the starting point. And they had started a software that would enable SMS. And I joined with them, and they just did nothing. These guys, one of them was working in a bank. The other guy, with all respect to him, I don't think he had a molecule of intelligence in his brain. And the third one was busy doing something else. So I was the one doing absolutely everything. And suffering every day, seeing these other 3 guys doing nothing. Then,
and he is the one who didn't want to do anything.
And I didn't want to do anything. Which is even more painful, right? Then I discovered that they were misusing the money that we had invested in the company.
Okay.
So then I said, okay, this is my opportunity. I'm breaking out of this company. I broke out of the company and I started my own. And that was the start. So it was an SMS company. It was maybe the 4th or 5th company in the UK it was called an SMS aggregator. It was the 4th or 5th SMS aggregator in the UK, SMS still hadn't kicked off in the US. It still hadn't kicked off in Europe. It still hadn't kicked off anywhere. So everybody that was going online was finding my business, and then we went from
This is
there.
in 2002.
2002.
Online had just begun.
Online had
Because,
just begun.
I used to use these modem
Exactly.
connections,
How-
slow speed, 1 Mbps, 2 Mbps connection. People found you on internet. You did your SEO on Google, Ask Jeeves, and Yahoo back then.
That's how we did it. We did it in those days. It was as simple as having a sitemap. It was as simple as
Yeah.
having a sitemap
Yeah.
and just keyword
Simple
stuffing
pages.
and all that kind of stuff.
I remember
yeah.
making website in those days. My own company website and our clients teeny meeny on Dreamweaver.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Moving forward, how did then that company grew? Did you grow it further?
So that company by about I actually spent about 2 years developing that company with no income. In 2005 is really where the income started, and from a point of interest, just as I was about to give up on that company, is when the sales
Picked up.
up.
So did you hire? You were how old? You said 20.
That time I was 25.
25. So you had a team?
No, everything
Was just one person, solopreneur.
It was solopreneur from day one.
For 2 years, you were solopreneur, getting clients, executing
all right.
SMSs, everything.
There were, for the first few years, it was just all development work. So it was myself and it was a developer. That developer was part-time. Okay. He used to come back from his day job and then he would work with me for 3-4 hours to actually do the development work. And that went on for about 2 years. Once it started moving, my vision from the start was automation. Like, people thought I was crazy at the time.
At the time, you thought of automation. How do you automate SMS marketing?
The whole thing was, we were a platform. These days, it's called platform as a service.
Yeah.
So you'll sign up, you'll register, you'll pay, you'll use the service. You do everything completely automated. And that was my vision, 2022. The answering of the prayers in my mind is it has to be automated. There's no other way to achieve that vision in the mind other than automation. And so that was the focus from day one. It wasn't you build a business and now let's automate it.
Yeah.
It was automation from day one. And the more customers we got, the more it could grow by itself. And it grew very well and it grew very healthy. Then after that, all I had was full-time designer, full-time developer, and support.
Okay. People who wanted support to
Exactly.
answer queries for SMS market. People who were doing marketing through you, they needed support.
Yes, exactly. And it wasn't just marketing. It was also softwares and other things, that transactional SMS and so on. And that company went strong for a good, if we say when it started, I just closed that company down 3 months ago.
Oh.
Like 20.
Still operational?
No, I've just closed it down. We got hacked
Okay.
in, I think it must have been May or earlier this year. We got hacked. And the hack led to several years of payments being refunded to all customers.
Oh my God. That's a weird hack.
It's okay. I'll tell about it. So now we don't have the time to go into details, but it basically killed our ability to take payments as a result of that. And now we couldn't operate for a few weeks. And so we told our clients, listen, please, we don't want you to wait for us because we don't know how long this is going to take. After a few weeks, it was like, you know what? It's time to bring this thing to an end rather than trying to bring it back to life.
Yeah.
It's done it played its role and we brought it to an end. So that was 3 months ago, 5 months ago.
And what other ventures you started in between? Actually, many. I'm going to touch upon a few I know of. But let's go back.
Okay, well, listen, we only have an hour. So which are the ones that you know of and that you're
Let's first
interested
go
to
back.
know about?
After the SMS, what else did you start?
I got into consulting. After SMS, I got into consulting. And the way I got into consulting was seeing everybody completely manual offline. Like, I would see people with paper forms and be like, why are you using a paper form? This is 2005. Why are you using a paper form? Like, they're bringing their call to action even on this paper thing, like, send us, phone it. I'm like, why aren't you directing them to this? Why aren't you doing that? So I kept on doing that until I started to develop a reputation as the person to speak to for online everything. Yeah, just online entrepreneurship, I guess. And so people started to speak to me about helping them with their online marketing, their websites, and so on. And I didn't want to get involved in the actual, like, doing the actual work because I wasn't interested in it. I was interested in looking at their business, seeing where their business could get to.
Like a consultant.
Exactly that. So it started off as a kind of marketing consultant, but quickly evolved into an entire business consultant. At that time, I also took the eMyth coaching program. I also became a certified Infusionsoft consultant. I did a whole load of things, but none of them were ever to become a consultant per se, just to do marketing. It was always just to elevate my skill set so that as an advisor, I could advise people better.
I would like to talk a little bit about our sponsor. This podcast is brought to you by Above Digital, a sales-focused performance marketing agency specializing in lead generation and e-commerce revenue growth using paid ad campaigns. A business needs a continuous flow of quality leads to thrive, grow, and scale. The best way to get quality leads is through paid ad campaigns that uses the right hook and messaging for your target market and makes them interested in your products and services. Above Digital can help you generate quality leads with strategic paid ad campaigns. Visit our website www.abovedigital.com to book your discovery call and explore how we can help you grow and scale your business and meet your revenue goals. That's interesting. I see this trait in all the entrepreneurs I've interviewed so far. Their this desire to learn and keep improving and investing in coaching and mentoring, and reading books or doing courses. It's so important to continuously grow your skills. No matter, like in your case, you did Infusionsoft is a marketing software. It's an email marketing software which has a lot of automations, and we use it. We used it long back. Now we use other softwares. eMyth is again on eMyth is about structures and systems. And,
correct, yeah.
And then you use that, I understand, because in Infusionsoft you can do a lot of automation campaigns and how you can systemize their online stuff. Interesting.
And now, I mean, in AI, that's what we're doing now. So I'll do something using an AI platform, figure it all out, and then map it over to an automation platform so that we can repeat the same process, at scale, but really intelligently.
And this is all in UK still. The second company, also the online marketing consultancy that you had?
No, that was actually here in the UAE. I lived here between 2005 and 2012.
So after the SMS company, you moved to Dubai then?
No. So the SMS company started in the UK, 2002. 2005, I decided to give up on it and move to the UAE.
Okay.
After I moved to the UAE, settled down, etc., that's when it started to take off. So it was a UK business that I was operating from here in Dubai.
Okay. And then simultaneously you started the consultancy business?
Because it was fully automated. I only needed to spend literally like half an hour per day. I didn't even need to spend half an hour. Sometimes it would go on for days without me having to do anything. And so
the clients were based out of UK or Dubai?
All over the world. All over the world.
Oh.
All over the world.
And you still had your offshore team
I've always
I've
always had a distributed team. I tried once upon a time to actually have a centralized team, and I didn't like it, and it's not really for me.
No.
I've always preferred to have a remote team. I like the idea of, if you can get the right people, it's not all people, if you can get the right people, giving people the space and the freedom to do the work at their own pace, it just makes things happier for everybody. But that's assuming you get the right people. If you don't get the right people, then remote is a recipe for disaster. There were people back in the day called 37 Signals. Do you remember them?
I use them. We use Basecamp.
Right? Basecamp, right? So they're the one, as far as I'm concerned, they're the pioneers of remote working. Exactly.
There used to be a website called Elans and all these sites where you can post a project and hire an offshore team.
Exactly. So those guys, they were the pioneers, and they were the ones, like, I bought into their stuff early on.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you're users of 337 Signals from then,
From back in the day.
Interesting. I'm still their customer.
Well done.
Moving on further. So now you have this consultancy company. How did you transform from here to AI? What got you into AI?
All right. So AI, if you think of artificial intelligence, before AI, I've always been interested in the idea of capturing human knowledge. Like, it's been interest for me. And it started off when, as a consultant, when I'm being asked to help these companies, I'm trying to understand the companies.
Correct.
So I'm trying to understand what's going on in their heads. So I remember with one client who wanted to franchise. So when you want to franchise, you need to capture the intelligence from their flagship store,
The operation, the
the
systems.
operations, the systems, the outlook, the
results,
spirit,
yeah.
everything. You need to capture it and then transfer it to other
So
locations.
to clone it, yeah.
Exactly, to clone it. So we used to sit down, we did lots of interviews with all the staff, trying to understand it. I also did this with various other leaders, also as a consulting service. So I've always been interested in that, and I've always been interested in organizing knowledge. So you would have read in my profile somewhere it says knowledge engineering. That's what this is all about. This is all about capturing knowledge, organizing knowledge, being able to hand it over to others. In fact, in the early days in Dubai, I used to do these regular business leader briefings, business briefing breakfast, they were called, where I would invite business leaders here in the UAE for breakfast, and I would teach them about topics that I felt they needed to understand, but which they otherwise wouldn't understand. They would have to rely on, in those days I used to call them cowboys, but they would have to rely on other people, and those other people could be cowboys. So I said, look, we'd do a briefing on digital marketing. We'd do a briefing on SEO. So they could understand how the whole thing works. That way, when they work with an agency or with somebody else,
They know what to expect.
They know what to expect, and they're on the same level to some extent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So knowledge engineering for me precedes AI. It's something I've always been interested in at a personal level, and even to this day, I'm still doing it now with the help of AI. But even still today, even this morning, I was doing it. Right. The start of 2022, we're now working on this SMS company. We're now replacing it with its successor called UnoBox. UnoBox is what's the right terminology? It's a omni-channel communication platform. So it can take all WhatsApp, SMS, the Instagram, Meta, all in one platform. Working with a branding company, and the branding company says, okay, so why are you so passionate about this company? I said, to be honest with you, I'm not passionate about it at all. They're like, no, you have to be passionate. I said, I'm not passionate about it. It just makes sense that having spent, 20 years in SMS, it makes sense to just move
Shift
on
it.
to this.
Yeah.
Because no, but you have to be. I said, look, I'm not passionate. I'm telling you. I started that company just because I wanted a cash machine. I'm being honest with you. I just wanted it as I'm not passionate. To be honest, I hate it.
That's harsh.
Yeah,
Okay.
I said, listen, I love the convenience that it offers me, but the actual thing, I'm not. I said, what I will be passionate about when that time comes is adding AI to the mix. This was at the end of 2021. I will be excited about adding AI to the mix because, remember, go back a few steps, capturing human knowledge, the idea that we can capture the human intelligence and then put it into a system that can scale is really interesting for me. Really, really interesting. Because I have a high work ethic. I don't like sloppy work. I don't like sloppy chatbots. I don't like sloppy marketing. I don't like sloppy anything. So AI, when it comes, will allow us to do that now. That excites me. But that was still a long way away. I mean, this is the end of 2021. Start of 2022, we start implementing GPT in the back end of our software.
How did you come to know about GPT?
Through my developer. So my full-time development team was in Sri Lanka. At that time, I had 4 developers. So they're the ones that introduced it to me. And the first time I saw it, I just couldn't make any sense out of it.
Yeah.
If you just saw GPT at the start of 2022 as a business owner without seeing ChatGPT, you really struggle to understand
what it can do.
What is this and what can it do? But some use cases start to show up and we started using it. Then about July 2022 started using Jasper. So Jasper now really started to make AI valuable from a content creation point of view. And then ChatGPT comes out in November 2022. Now, when ChatGPT came out, I was on a sabbatical with my father. And my daughter introduced it to me the day after it was released. I signed up. I went and looked into it.
You had never heard about ChatGPT before?
It was literally just released. It was just released. I mean, the OpenAI team had been working on a project before it called Instruct GPT. And that was the ChatGPT predecessor. But it was accessible to us through just normal development GPT stuff. Anyhow, at the same time that ChatGPT was released, I was reading a book. My father and I were both reading this book called Mega Threats. Okay? Mega Threats is a book written by an economist who was on Barack Obama's team, who predicted the 2008 recession.
Okay.
And when he predicted it, everybody laughed him off stage. And they gave him the nickname Dr. Doom. But he ended up being right. So this book, Mega Threats, describes the 10 mega threats looming over humanity for the years ahead. If any one of them is to happen, it's going to be devastating for humanity. And there's a possibility that all 10 could happen at the same time.
Okay.
So both my father and I are reading this book together, and one of the chapters is on AI.
I was going to say that AI was one of them.
One of the chapters is on AI. And at the same time, I am going deep into ChatGPT. Because I was on a sabbatical, I was working on a non-profit project. Unlike everybody else who is busy with life and couldn't make time for ChatGPT when it was released, and all they did was just hear about it on the news, I was spending hours per day exploring different things. Let me try this. Let me try that. I wonder what would happen if I did this. I wonder what would happen if I did that. So we're going through this process, and every day I'm showing my father. Now, I told you my father was a serial entrepreneur. He developed an operating system in the 70s. So think about MS-DOS. He had built an operating system.
He had PhD in what?
Maybe mathematics or something like that, right?
So he was always into numbers.
He's
and
into
programs.
numbers, yeah. And
so he built software in MS-DOS.
He built an operating system.
Yeah.
They were selling it for $100 a piece. IBM offered to buy, 1 million licenses for like $1 each or something silly like that.
Okay.
And the other people in the company refused. He also refused. Like, what are you talking about? $1 per piece. And next year he was out of business, right? Because it was monopolized. In any
Some
case,
decisions you have to take when they come.
you have to take, exactly. And he's always had this thing that, he always says, Arabs and technology do not mix, right? This was the thing that he said to me in day one with the SMS business. And then eventually he was also saying, so now with AI, I'm showing him everything I'm doing every day. And he's like, this is nothing. When I was younger, we did like this. And every use case I'm showing him, he's gunning it down. Until I showed him one use case, which blew my mind. I call these pivotal breakthrough moments. And one of the reasons why people are apathetic towards AI now, 2024 still, is because they have not experienced the pivotal breakthrough moment. And I experienced it then, and I got my father to experience it. And then he said to me, Fahed, you must teach people.
What was that pivotal breakthrough moment?
It was working with AI, at that time it was ChatGPT, working with ChatGPT to put together a business plan. And the way that we did it in this entire process, eventually, everybody always talks about prompting the AI. I flipped the script. Remember, this is December 2022. December 2022, I told ChatGPT, ask me the questions. Wait for it. After it asked me the questions, I then said to it, now help me to answer the questions that you asked. All right?
Interesting.
And when my father saw that, and he saw the depth of the questions and the depth of the answers, and that now we could actually solve huge problems in a tiny fraction of the time, literally 1%, he just was completely blown away. He just thought it was just a small thing that does small things here and small things there and reword it like this. But now it was displaying like real intelligence, specialized intelligence. And he said, you have to teach people.
But why teach people? Why not do something with it?
So I said to him, well, he said to me, you have to teach. I said, there's no way I want to teach people. And he said to me, think about your brother, think about your sisters, think about your nephews and nieces. Remember, we're both reading this book.
Yeah.
Mega threats, right? And so we're both reading this book. We're both seeing the AI as a threat. And he is saying, no, you have to teach people. You have a knack that you're able to have figured this out. You have, and I'm like, Dad, this is a secret weapon. I don't want to teach anyone. My mind is ticking about business opportunities now. And he says, no. One by one, people will start to wake up, and all the people that are currently involved in some business idea are going to figure out how to upgrade it using AI. So the amount of time that you can get ahead of them is going to be very little, and then they will overtake you because they'll have more funding. Whereas with teaching, you'll get two things. Number one, you will be able to help people. And number two, as people start to wake up, they will want to learn from somewhere. And
you will be
and
leading
you will
that.
be that person. He also gave me other advice, which I'm not going to share with your listeners because I don't want to give away the rest of the edge that he gave me. Now, here's the super interesting thing. I never listened to my father in my life.
But this time you did.
I remember I told you all these people come to visit my dad and ask him for advice. My entire life, I never listened to him. In fact, with that first business, when I went to ask him for advice on the business, he was like, oh, my son, finally he's listening to me, right? For that 1 month that I was getting advice from him. And after that, again, I never listened to him again. I listened to him and the rest is history. So now I have it in my mind, listen to your father, like how much further ahead could I have been in life had I listened to my father? And I tell that to my kids as well.
Do they listen to you though? I'm sure they do. You keep sharing.
That's debatable. We hope so. They are. They listen. There's just a 2-year gap between what you say when they actually do it.
Yeah. So that's how you got into AI, thanks to the book and your father's advice.
My
and
father's
teaching AI.
Yeah. So what happened? I was on a transit in Dubai for 10 days, going back to Sri Lanka, because I was in Sri Lanka with my development team. We were working on UnoBox. So I was going back to Sri Lanka, 10-day transit in Dubai, and then I start asking friends, hey, are you guys, how are you guys doing with ChatGPT? And the answer was consistent with everybody. The answer was, I've heard about it, but I'm not using it. This was in February 2023. I've heard, and I'm like, guys, what are you talking about? 1 day of AI is like 10 days of non-AI. Don't think that you've missed out on 3 months. You've missed out on 30 months. What are you doing? So each of those friends, I said to them, listen, round up a bunch of your friends and colleagues, and I'll give you guys a free seminar whilst I'm here in Dubai. And so I did. I did a bunch of free seminars for people. In fact, Reem is one of those people that I said to her, put people together, let's do it. Yeah. And I did a couple of free webinars as well. And all of those people, they said, Fahed, you can't do this to us. You can't just tell us about it. You also have to teach it to us.
Yeah.
And so I did the first workshop, which at that time was called the ChatGPT.
Accelerator?
No. It was called the ChatGPT. I wanted to call it the ChatGPT Bootcamp. But when we were doing the marketing material and we went to the value proposition, what's the value proposition of the bootcamp? Is to accelerate your learning. So then we renamed it afterwards to become the ChatGPT Accelerator. And it was a weekend workshop. It was a 2-day weekend workshop. Yeah. And then after that, I had more demand and more demand and more demand. So I never left Dubai. I kept on delaying my trip back to Sri Lanka. I still have all my clothes and everything are in Sri Lanka, right? Kept on delaying, and turned it into an online program. And at the end of all of that, now Dubai kind of became home. So,
a word from a sponsor, Above Digital. If your answer to generating leads has been cold calling, think about it. How many calls have helped you make a sale? You need to meet your customers where they are with a strategy to convince and convert them into paying customers. Above Digital, a sales-focused lead generation agency, can help you position your business in front of your target market with the right offer and messaging to generate qualified leads for your business. Visit www.abovedigital.com to set up a discovery call with me and see how we can help you grow your business. So teaching was always, because the E-Myth and your infusions, it looks like teaching has always been part of your business journey, consulting, seeing your father consult.
Correct.
kind of groom to teach?
I would say it's more like I would teach even if I wasn't being paid, right? If somebody came to me, and I have to control myself. If somebody came to me and said, hey, help me to understand topic XYZ, I have to control myself to say no. Otherwise, naturally, I'm like, yes, this is my opportunity to like organize this information, communicate it in a way they'll understand, and it's going to benefit them, and they're going to move forward. In fact, I told you that the first business was the answering of a prayer. What I'm doing now is also the answering of the prayer. And what was the prayer? The prayer, which I've done for maybe a decade.
4-hour work week.
Not the 4-hour. That was the first one. This one was asking God to use me to be of most benefit, to use me to benefit as many people as possible for as long as possible. And as long as possible, because you can help somebody and that help lasts for 1 minute. As long as possible means you help somebody and the benefit of that help lasts a long time. And there's a difference between helping one person and helping 1 million people. So help as many people as possible for as long as possible. And that's the answering of the prayer that I'm living out now in helping people move from the pre-AI era to post-AI or to the AI era in a conscientious manner. Because people who don't do it conscientiously are just drifting into the AI era. Instead of AI being their pilot, instead of the AI being their co-pilot, they will become the passengers of AI and AI will be the pilot. And that's a disaster. It's a disaster waiting for many, many people who are just drifting into AI.
Are you still teaching though? Or have you evolved into a different kind of a business?
So our business model in Bellamy Alden now, what we're doing is, my teaching, so to say, focuses mostly on senior leaders. All right? So the senior leaders are the most important people, are the most important pieces in the puzzle because of this whole idea of top-down. If they are not the ones leading the charge, then who is?
When you say senior leaders, how do you mean? Like the CEOs and the GMs?
Yeah, the C-suite and one level below.
Okay.
Right? These, for me, are the most important people. And earlier on, we talked about that pivotal breakthrough moment. That's the biggest need of the time for senior leaders, is to have pivotal breakthrough moments so that they're learning through AI, through their own conscious experience. Like they feel the impact in their heart, the same way that my father did, the same way that I did, and the same way that probably that you did. At some point in your AI experience, in your AI journey, you would have watched ChatGPT or some other AI do something that was nothing short of magic. And you just sat back in your chair and you thought, what the hell did I just watch? Oh my God, I have to take this seriously.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest need for senior leaders. So that's something I personally do. I do that personally because at that level, not everybody can speak their language. Not everybody can be comfortable with them. Not everybody can be comfortable guiding them and understand what's on their mind, what's on their need. You know what I mean? Because sometimes a leader will say, I want this. Okay, that's what you're saying. You want this, but is that going to give you what you need? And you need to have somebody that will be able to say, no, I'm not going to give you what you want. I'm going to give you what you need. And there's very few people that can do that. Then after that, where our model is going as a company is creating communities of practice within companies. So let's say, for example, you've got a company with 1,000 people in it. How on earth are we going to make 1,000 people AI literate? How are we going to do it? We can't do workshops for 1,000 people. We can't do these big interventions and then every week like we did, with the accelerator and twice a week with office hours and so on. So what we do now is that we build community of practice where each person gets their own learning path. So everybody has a core learning path with getting familiar with AI and working with general AI. And it's all self-paced. And then we have different components to it, which adds. So you could go and do LinkedIn learning, but it's just you and LinkedIn. What you need is that human element to it. So what we do is we have, for example, every Wednesday, we ask employees to share their breakthrough moments. What have they done with AI that week that has been transformational for them? What concerns on another day will prompt them? What concerns are you guys having this week about using AI? So each week, and then we do have office hours, but it's according to the company.
So this is again still teaching. You're
It's
still into
all-
a teaching. So
It is all still
not
teaching.
so much of execution.
No, I don't do the we don't do the
You
execution.
purely teach how to use. You basically make people AI literate.
That is you could say that, but also along with that is advisory. So I'd say 90% is building literacy, and then 10% is advisory. The actual implementation, we have a sister company in Qatar that specialize in building out use cases. So for example, they did something recently where they took a tendering process. So they're receiving all of these bids, which are like 500-page documents, and they're using AI to restructure those documents in however they want and to evaluate all of those submissions. You know, and that's saving like months of time.
Yeah.
You know, so they're the ones that do the implementation. We do the
teaching of
the
how to use
teaching
different
and
uses.
the advisory. Yeah.
There's so many different AIs. There's so many use cases. Like how do people choose what AI is right for their business? Because there's so many options. Now everything has become paid. Nothing is free anymore.
And
how many subscriptions can you have? And how many should you have?
you know what? The thing is, this is the future. Like once upon a time, if you remember, like the Adobe suite used to cost like $2,500, $3,000, $4,000. And then they shifted it to the subscription model, right? In those days, the answer for many people was to just use a pirated copy.
Yeah.
But the actual fact is you have to look at it from a value point of view. Are you getting the value out of it, yes or no? If you're spending a $30 subscription and you're not getting $300 value out of it, then why are you subscribing to it? You know what I mean? Like you do have to be conscious of of this idea of what value am I getting out of it? And so with businesses, we started off with ChatGPT once upon a time, but got so much pushback from everybody for two reasons. Number one, they're concerned about data privacy, data security. They just don't feel happy with using OpenAI. Also, from a legal point of view, OpenAI is not GDPR compliant, right? Unless you're with the enterprise account. Now, the enterprise account is tens of thousands of dollars per month. Who is going to spend tens of thousands of dollars per month that is not already sold on ChatGPT? So it's like a catch-22 situation. You're not going to invest in ChatGPT if you don't have an amazing experience with it, but you're not going to have an amazing experience with it if you don't invest in it. So we sidelined all of that. We start with two platforms, Meta Llama, which is the open source AI from Meta, and Microsoft Copilot. So this is the second reason they're all pushing back is because they're all paying for licenses with Copilot. They're like, we're paying for a Copilot license. Help us to use Copilot. So for many people, Copilot provides a lot of surface level AI, which is really helpful for day-to-day use. And for the people that need to do more strategic work, now those are the ones that need to go deep into general AI, which we do through Llama.
Interesting. So what all different things a business can do with AI apart from creating social content? Strategy, business planning, business plans. What else? Tell us more that you guys are doing.
Anything and everything that requires human intelligence. Everything. And this is what people don't understand. Things like content, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Content, what is content? Content is a form of communication, right? So if I write a book and I give this book to you, I am communicating to you through the book. It's a form of communication. Interpersonal communication. The magic of AI is in intrapersonal communication, which is the communication I have with myself. So all the intellectual activities anybody does on a day-to-day basis, AI can help with that. It helps you to think. You know, the human limitations to thinking are so many. Like you're not in the mood to think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not in the mood to do this, or you want to do it, but you're just not feeling it. Some internal thing is sabotaging you. Like a whole lot of human limitations get in the way of humans exercising their intelligence, and AI comes along, and can now serve as a crutch to actually help you think much better, much more effectively, much more efficiently, much more easily than ever before. So the real value for general AI is for knowledge workers. What work do knowledge workers do every day? What work does a HR person do every day? It can help them in literally every single piece. We have a workshop called AI Ignition. AI Ignition, the goal of the workshop is to turn apathy towards AI into excitement. Okay? And the last part of the workshop, what we do, we introduce each of the people to the AI. So the AI will ask them, okay, what's your name? What's your job title? Based on your job title, I'm guessing this is your key result. Confirm or suggest otherwise. The person will confirm. If this is your key result and this is your company, this is likely what all of your work is on a day-to-day basis. And then the person says, yep, that's pretty much it. Then the next step is, these are all the different ways I can help you to complete this task. These are all the different ways I can help you complete this task. These are all the different ways I can help you to complete. And just go through that entire list. It's everything, Namita, everything.
So if AI is going to do a lot of execution, how should the human brain then be used? Like how should we train ourselves towards what kind of thinking? Because now we have AI for executing our thought process, right?
Right. So let's just imagine that you were a marketeer. Okay, you've been working as
I am a marketer.
I know you are a marketeer, but you're also a business owner, right?
Yeah.
So let's just imagine that you're a marketeer. You started off as a junior marketer, and now you're progressing, and now you become a senior marketer, and now you're being hired as the director of marketing in a large company. You now know all the knowledge there is about marketing. You know about digital marketing. You know about user journeys. You know about all of these different things. You now have to resist doing the work yourself, because you have a team of people that will do the work for you. At that point, you tell me, what's the change in the mindset that has to happen with that person?
You think strategically, you don't think about execution, you think about on the things.
Exactly. Exactly. You start to think strategically. You start to think about assigning tasks. You start to think about division of labor, delegation. So you are packed up with the knowledge of the domain, but you are not necessarily, and you take responsibility because you have to report to the CEO, but you are not the one that is actually doing it. So that's our relationship with AI moving forward. The relationship is we are the directors and AI is the doer. And the crazy thing is, directing is also a form of doing, right?
Yeah.
So you can get the help of AI to help you with the directing. So I have a pre-saved prompt, which I use at least 10 times a day. This prompt, whenever I ask the AI, give me different ideas or suggest solutions, the prompt says, go into these solutions, create criteria to evaluate the solutions objectively, score each one of the solutions from 0 to 10 based on each of these criteria, add up all the scores, and tell me which one is the best.
You're just giving it instructions to do everything, then rate itself, and then choose the best.
And then, exactly. And so the better you can get at that. And so the future, in terms of our relationship with AI, first of all, I can tell you, and for the last 1.5 years, I've avoided saying things like this in front of screens because people are like, no, don't say that. But you have to. I've decided now I have to say it. The future in our relationship as a society with AI will mean that some people will stop working. Some people will stop working and they will live on universal basic income. The people that will keep on working are the ones that, as AI becomes more and more relevant, they ride with AI. They learn how to ride AI. Like, I can run, I don't know, let's just say 10 kilometers an hour, and a horse can run 40 kilometers an hour. If I want to now run 40 kilometers an hour by myself, I can't. I have to learn how to ride the horse. You see what I mean? And if a car comes along and the car can go 400 kilometers an hour or 200 kilometers an hour, I have to leave the horse behind, learn how to ride the car.
Catch up with the technology.
You have to catch up with the technology and you have to ride the technology. Now, not everybody that is running is going to accept riding on a horse and they'll be left behind. Not everybody who's riding a horse will be willing to ride in a car and those people will be left behind, right? And that's just a part of life. So myself, yourself, the people who are listening that want to continue being relevant in the future absolutely must learn how to ride the horse or the car.
There's also one side effect. It'll make people lazy to even think. Like I already see a part of it. Like I see billboards and hoardings and emails from reputed agencies. I know this is ChatGPT content.
Yep.
by removing words like elevate and whatever. I'm like, you don't have the time to just scan through the copy and make it your own. So how is it the negative side effects of AI?
So this is, you know, earlier on I said to you, I don't like sloppy this, I don't like sloppy marketing. It's a work ethic, right? So people who have a low work ethic and now you give them AI, it's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
You have to maintain a high work ethic. So the people of the future that are going to succeed with AI are the people of work ethic. I still don't know how we are going to be able to maintain or teach high work ethic for the future. And this is, I told you at the start, I'm doing academic research now around AI and studies and AI and teaching. And this is now the things that we're trying to figure out, because that's the biggest challenge. You know, you saw that post I did for my daughter. She has a work ethic. She's intelligent. So she's asking me all of these questions from a place of interest. And they're hitting her. When I'm giving her the answers, they're hitting her. And so she's thinking and so on. And it will be the minority. It's not going to be the majority. So the majority will be doing things like that. There was a research paper, the introduction of the research paper. The first line, this is a research paper. The first line said, here's an introduction to your research paper.
Oh God, they forgot to even remove that.
They forgot to even remove that. I received a message on LinkedIn the other day. I'll show it to you. Such a well-written message. You know, oh, Fahed, we're having a magazine on AI. We'd like to include you, talk about the work that you're doing in Bellamy Alden and your leadership in the AI field. And I'm feeling like, oh, wow, these guys have really done their research. And then I scrolled back up, and the first line says, here's a personalized email for Fahed. And I've discounted them.
Yeah.
You know, so slowly, the people that are having low work ethic will start to be discounted.
I unfollowed the agency I was unsubscribed to by looking at that email.
There you go. Yeah. They will start to be discounted. People who are using, for example, AI on LinkedIn, and they're doing it in a way that, you know, somebody did a post the other day. It wasn't a post, it was a comment. So, in fact, somebody we both know, Bianca, the lawyer, right? So she posted in being on a podcast, actually. Oh, no, on a radio station.
Yeah.
And she posted photos, and she said, here are photos of me at the station. And there's a comment that said, oh, it's so good that you're doing blah, 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 and the photos must be amazing. A person looking at a LinkedIn post would see the photos and say, amazing photos.
Yeah.
And the person who is not...
As a machine will say photos must be amazing.
Exactly right. Yeah. And I personally find that extremely offensive. Like, you want to use AI to create content. I don't mind that. Because if it's good quality content, it's good quality content. And if you're using AI to do it, it means I know from firsthand, you're putting a lot of effort into it. Yeah. It's not just write me a blog post on XYZ and then you accept it. No. Yeah. You're like, what's the key message? What are the arguments, etc. Whereas this one, when it's a comment,
lazy to even think a comment. You use AI to think of what to reply.
He didn't even see the comment. So there I am thinking I'm responding to a human and I'm not. And that's deeply offensive.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, imagine you phone me and said, hey, Fahed, I need some advice. And I've got AI Fahed talking to you and you think you're talking to me.
Yeah.
That is really offensive. I don't think we'd continue to be friends. I've lost friends in the past when I've asked them to organize something with my assistant. Like, oh, so now I can't even speak to you directly. And now this is with a robot, you know? So the key to it will be work ethic. People from our era that do have already a high work ethic will continue to succeed with AI. The young generation, I personally feel it will be a minority. It will be a minority of people that are able to learn a high work ethic and continue on that basis.
So what else are you guys working on, and what's the future for your company now?
This is the future. The future is the communities of practice. So now, you know, over the last year, we've developed this model. Yeah. Step number one, let's get people excited about AI, right? Which is AI ignition. So we're basically lighting the fire of AI in companies. Then how do we keep the fire burning? Through the community of practice. And different companies will set up a community of practice in different ways, and our involvement in the community of practice will vary according to different companies. So some of them will involve a weekly office hours. Some of them will just be prompts and reminders and video lessons and so on. But the idea for everybody is how to light the fire of excitement for AI and how to keep that fire burning. Because it's only through that that people will be riding that, continuing to ride with the technology as it rises. Otherwise, if people are not excited,
Yeah.
And hopefully my book coming out,
Oh, you're writing a book
I'm
now.
writing a book called Mind the Gap. And it's all about minding the gap between where is AI and where are we in relation to AI. And if we don't mind that gap, then AI is just going to overtake us.
And we'll be left behind.
And we'll be left
And
behind.
we should not. No way.
No way. No way.
I think as a human race, you learn to catch up. You learn to eventually.
The problem is with AI, it's a bit different. That's the people don't realize that AI is a
Learning.
it's a self-learning, self-building machine. How do you catch up? AI, if you get one AI speaking to another AI, okay? Somebody told me this was done. I never saw it myself, but somebody told me that it was done, that they put two AIs with each other, communicating with each other, and they eventually developed their own language.
Yeah, I had read something like this, and they had to shut it down because it was moving very fast.
It was fast. I don't know what
Yeah.
happened to it, but they eventually got to a point where they were able to communicate with each other in light speed. Like they developed their own way of communicating, and there was no way to actually monitor what they're saying with each other. Like it reached a crazy point.
Yeah.
So how do you catch up? How do you catch up with something that doesn't sleep? How do you catch up with something that can learn itself? Doesn't get tired, doesn't have any needs, doesn't have any emotions? Like how do you catch up? The only way you can catch up is to stay on top of it. And unfortunately, the people who are making the AI, they know this. They know this.
But you know what? You cannot even not do it. Because we have to progress as a human race, right? And this is one of the ways we want to reach those planets far away, universe, figure out our own world. We have to use this tech.
I was once on a podcast with one of the creators of AI. So he was the creator of something that accelerates the speed of AI dramatically. And I was talking the story about mega threats. I mentioned that story. And so they asked me my opinion. I gave my opinion. And then they asked his opinion. And he said, well, my first opinion is that you should not read the book called Mega Threats.
I'm actually intrigued. I want to read the book.
He said, do not read the book called Mega Threats because AI is going to open an entirely new world of abundance and. Okay, fantastic. Between now, capitalism, and the new era, let's call it abundance, how exactly are we going to shift from the era of capitalism, which is what we've gotten used to an era of abundance? Because apparently in the era of abundance, we don't have jobs. So how do we go from having jobs to not having jobs? Like explain that transition and explain to me that that transition is not going to be painful for us living here today. So AI is going to be absolutely amazing for solving the world's biggest health problems, education problems, all of these problems. But the upheaval it will create for the people who don't take it seriously from now will also be a problem. Somebody once asked me, what's the biggest problem that you want AI to fix? This was another podcast. And I said, the biggest problem I want it to fix is the problem that it's going to create itself, which is the meaning of life. Like once you take away human struggle, human work, the idea of, having challenges, like what stops somebody from doom scrolling on social media throughout the night? What stops them? It's not the need to sleep because they can stay awake. They can just let their sleep fall apart. What stops them is the fact that they need to wake up in the morning and go to work. And if they don't, they'll be fired. And if they're fired, they can't pay for their office. Or pay for their home. So if your home is being paid for, what's to stop you from being lost in doom scrolling the whole night? I went to the cinema 2 nights ago with my 2 older kids in London. And all 3 of us walked out. We rated the film. One of them said it was absolute rubbish, 3 out of 10. Myself and the oldest one, we both said 6 out of 10. And she said, Dad, I think like the quality of movies is just falling apart these days. Like I don't find movies interesting anymore. And I said, yeah, you're right. I mean, we've become very demanding. Once upon a time when it was a black and white TV, we'd be happy with like Muppets, you know, like puppets, you know. Now, give us a $300 million CGI sci-fi movie, and we're still not phased, right? And even my youngest son, he's watching TV on YouTube, and there's this thing called the Vine boom. Every twist of the story, there's a sound effect happening in the back. And he can't watch without the sound effects. Like without the sound effect, it's boring. So I explained to them, I said, look, as Hollywood starts to dip down, AI immersive experiences will pick up. And we will eventually get to a point where we just, whatever we want to imagine is what we'll experience. So, you know, those stories where it's like choose your adventure, and then you finish one chapter, and then it's like, does he do this or does he do it? Yes or no? Yes, go to page 70. No, go to page 80, right? The future of entertainment will be like that. The future of entertainment will be according to your imagination. Like, what happens next?
Depends on what my brain imagines.
What your brain imagines, right? So now just imagine an endless supply of imagination being put in front of you. And so that's the biggest problem I'd like to see AI fix is what are you going to do about human purpose at that time? And people like, you know, I believe in God. I'm a believer in everything. So I'm like, okay, I've been using work and life as an excuse to like delay God and ignore God and whatever, right? Just I can leave that to the side. And okay, now all the work is gone. I've got no excuse.
You have reached the 4-hour work week, or actually 0-hour work week.
The 0 hour, yeah, exactly. It's like now I have no excuse.
Yeah.
I have in the last 2 years personally, the uptake in hobbies for me is jumped up. You know, I got into dancing, I got into a whole lot of things, right? Because of I don't want to say the free time that AI has created for me. Working with AI as intensely as I do is really intense. Like you can only do 8 hours, and then after that you're completely burnt. And this is something that I warn senior leaders about, that don't think that just because your employees can now do a lot more, that you can just rinse them out 8 hours. And now you're going to get 80 hours worth of work done in 8 hours. Don't be greedy because you're going to burn them out. You know, a time will come where even, you know, in the workforce, we're going to have to reduce work hours just to maintain, psycho-emotional balance of working with AI. So I'm pushing for all sorts of offline activities. Like I would rather go and watch a play in the theater now than go and watch something in the cinema, because I want to have that kind of human interaction. In fact, my father the other day, I was in London, he said, you know, I want you to teach me how to use this AI and how to do these things in AI. And I taught him how to do things in his bit. And then I said to him, but Dad, I don't recommend you to. Because why? He goes, why? I said, why do you play Sudoku? He said, just to keep my mind. I said, okay, this is going to make that worse. So think of your work and your business, etc. Think of it just as a game to keep your mind fresh. You know what I mean? So
as a business, if they have to get started, where should they get started into AI?
I am absolutely convinced that the starting point is dealing with apathy, getting people excited about AI. Because if you come to people with an AI training program and they have some emotional drivers inside that are causing them to resist AI, giving them your training program is like pouring water on a sealed cup, right? So this is the starting point. You have to get people excited about AI. Now, you do what you can. There's different ways you can do it.
How do you make people excited about AI?
For us, we are convinced that the way is through the pivotal breakthrough moment. So when somebody comes and does the AI Ignition workshop with us,
they experience the working of the AI and see it work for it.
Exactly. The first thing that we do in the workshop is assign everybody a number and then give everybody access to Llama. The first thing we do, the first activity, the entire workshop is purely activity-based. There's no lecturing. It's purely activity-based, where we say, okay, the person next to you, write down how long they've known you for. So it could be 1 year, 2 years, 10 minutes, whatever it is. Say, okay, now ask that person to tell you what they know about you. And they'll say, oh, she's like this, she's like that, etc. Then we say, okay, now tell your partner your 3 favorite films. and we ask the partner again, now, based on these 3 films, what can you tell about this person? And they do their best. We then get them to do it with the AI. We have a pre-made model that takes your 3 favorite films and figures out
your personality type.
Your personality based on the 3 favorite films. And 99% will score between 8, 9, or 10 out of 10 with accuracy.
Wow.
The people who score less than 8 are typically people who are anti-AI from the start. And by the end of the workshop, they become pro-AI. But at the start, because they're trying to like game the system.
Yeah.
But most people will read it and they're like, oh my God, this thing knows me so well. So this thing doesn't even know who you are, hasn't even met you, doesn't even know you for a few seconds. And based on your 3 favorite films,
can figure
you out. So now they have that first moment.
Pivotal moment.
Whoa, what is this thing? I thought this thing was just for writing emails.
Yeah.
This thing knows me.
Yeah.
And then we take them through another exercise and another exercise. And each one of those exercises, like throwing them here, throwing them there. By the end of 3 or 4 hours, they're like, okay, this thing is seriously intelligent. And I feel threatened by it right now. But I also feel excited that if I can
figure
this out, I can use this to multiply my intelligence and I'll get the credit for it, which is really important. That people have to understand that if you use AI with a high work ethic and you produce good quality work, you will get the credit for it. And if you use it poorly,
you will get the blame for it too.
You'll get the blame for it. Exactly. Right? So they start to like, oh my God, this can multiply my work. That task I'm doing, I can get it done.
Yeah.
We then do another session within the same workshop, which I told you about earlier, which is figuring out all the different ways that AI can work with you to help you do your work. And in the final 1.5 hours, they choose some tasks from that list and start working with the AI to actually do those tasks.
So basically get them excited about AI, and it starts from
exactly.
there.
That's the starting point. And anything else is a mistake. Any other step you can take towards doing AI is a mistake, because you're dealing with people who have emotional and intellectual barriers to it. They don't like it. They resent it. Right? You could bring the best employee to join the team or the best leader to join the team, and if everybody resents him, he's not going to be able to do anything. So the first thing is you have to deal with those underlying issues driving apathy towards AI. And then once that's done, we can all go, up from there.
So how can people work with you? How can people find where to find you, how to get started with you, how to work with you? Like to tell our listeners?
Sure, yeah. So first thing, the easiest thing is going to be LinkedIn. Just reach out through LinkedIn, and then from
LinkedIn to Fahed Bizzari?
Fahed Bizzari, yeah. And then from there, I can direct them to the right people to get, according to their situation.
We will be also sharing the social media links to Fahed and all his companies and social handles in the description below.
Thank you very much.
Fahed, it was fun talking to you like always. Lots of learnings, lots of mind-boggling moments, and so much more to talk about. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation about Fahed's journey as an entrepreneur and his AI, deep insights on AI and how you can get started with AI. To many more such conversations. See you in the next episode.